When my brother-in-law died in battle, my sister tried to end her life at his memorial. Moved by her devotion, the emperor named her a virtuous widow. Later, the marquis's second son visited. My sister arranged for me to marry into his family, claiming my presence would ease her sorrow. She treated me exceptionally well, and I soon became pregnant. She pampered me daily with fine food and rest, but everything changed the day I gave birth. Because the baby was too large, I had a difficult labor. The people in the household only listened to my agonized cries, yet not a single person left the residence to seek a doctor for me. On the verge of death, Sister D came in holding a child and placed it by my pillow. "From now on, this will be your child, little sister. You can rest in peace. I will help you raise her," my sister said. Gucci held the mother and child in his arms, looking at me coldly.
"Letting you be the Marchioness for a year was already a favor to you. The only person I have ever loved is Chu Shui. If she hadn't gotten pregnant, I wouldn't have married you, or put on this act."
So it turns out everything was their trap. I listened to their laughter as I took my last breath. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day when the entire city escorted the coffin of the Marquis of Dingyuan back to the capital. The cold wind cut like a knife, mixed with the ashes of burnt paper money blowing in my face. I gasped sharply, as if the searing pain of a difficult childbirth from my previous life still lingered in my chest. But in my ears there was no longer the midwife's indifferent urging, or Gucci's cruel mockery, only the thunderous funeral music and heart-wrenching cries. Instinctively, I placed my hand on my flat belly. My fingertips trembled slightly. It was real. I had truly come back. Heaven had eyes, and actually let me return to the very beginning of this tragedy. Not far away stood Lin Chuxue, dressed in her school uniform, right in the center of the crowd. Her face was as pale as paper, her figure as delicate as a willow swaying in the wind, and only her red lips stood out, making her look especially pitiful amidst all the pallor. She and the Marquis of Dingyuan Guting had only just become husband and wife, but the very next day, her husband donned his armor and went off to war. Less than a year later, news came back that the Marquis of Dingyuan had died in battle. The army had been ambushed, and the Marquis's body was never found. Even in the campherwood coffin being carried back today, there was nothing left but a set of blood-stained, broken armor. Moved by the Marquis of Dingyuan's unparalleled bravery, the Emperor and Empress, along with all civil and military officials, broke tradition to welcome his coffin at the city gates. A white-clad procession approached, their long banners blocking the sun as mournful music echoed. Supported by her maid, Lin Chuxue walked slowly toward the coffin, looking as if she might be blown over by the wind. In my past life, it was right before the entire court that in the depths of her overwhelming grief, she suddenly pushed aside her maid and, disregarding everything, made a dramatic attempt at suicide. Fresh blood stained the white cloth and also the threshold of the Marquis of Dingyuan's residence. Because of this, she gained a reputation as a virtuous and loyal widow, personally granted the title of second-rank Lady of Chastity by the Emperor. Back then, I was so foolish, moved by sisterly affection and terrified out of my wits, that I rushed forward to stop her from dying. My body became her cushion, not only allowing her to be rescued unharmed by everyone, but my chest was badly bruised from her violent impact, aching for a full half-month, and my ridiculous act of stepping forward unwittingly helped her, completing her perfect performance. This time, I coldly watched the calculating glint in her eyes. I really want to see how she plans to pull off this act unscathed, without me as her cushion. I stepped forward, tightly holding onto Sister Dai's arm, putting on a show of deep sisterly affection and overwhelming grief, silently shedding tears. "Sister, you must hold on," I said. "The Marquise, watching from the spirit world, would never want to see you torment yourself like this." She subtly gave me a sharp look, as if slashing at me without leaving a trace, and there was clearly a hint of annoyance in her eyes. She took a deep breath, her gaze flickered, and suddenly she raised her voice. She let out a piercing wail. "Husband, why did you leave me all alone? The long night stretches on, the road to the underworld is cold. How could Chuxue bear to let you travel it alone? Chuxue will come to accompany you right now." With that, she suddenly broke free from the maid's grasp, adopting a posture of utter resolve, crying as she forcefully rushed toward the iron-hard agarwood coffin. She moved quickly, but her body angled itself just right. Clearly, she was counting on me to do as I always did and rush forward to hold her back. I pretended to be exhausted, but in that instant my wrist slipped away like an eel, and I took half a step back, covering my face and wailing even louder than her. "Sister, you must restrain your grief. Don't cry yourself sick." Lin Chuxue never expected that I would suddenly let go. She had been holding back some of her strength, ready to be stopped by me at any moment, but now she completely lost her balance. With all the momentum she had built up, she crashed forward with a loud, dull, and terrifying thud that echoed in front of the city gate. With nothing to stop her, Lin Chuxue's forehead slammed hard against the edge of the coffin, which was studded with brass nails. Everything happened so quickly that everyone was stunned. Lin Chuxue didn't even have time to let out a scream before a horrifying gash split open on her forehead, and blood gushed out like a breached stream. The sight of it splattering onto her pristine school uniform and the pitch-black coffin was shocking. She slid down limply like a rag doll and collapsed heavily to the ground, completely losing consciousness. I sneered inwardly, but on the surface, I immediately let out a heart-wrenching scream, ignoring the bloodstains on the floor. I rushed over and looked at Lin Chuxue, limp on the ground. That face, which always carried an air of nobility, was now deathly pale and smeared with blood. All I felt inside was satisfaction. Sister, what's wrong?" I cried, my whole body trembling, clutching her shoulders tightly and shaking her. "Someone help! Quick, call for a doctor." Only then did the officials and commoners around snap out of their daze. Palace maids and eunuchs hurriedly gathered, scrambling to carry Lin Chuxue into a temporary tent. Everyone from the Ding Yuan Marquis household was deeply shaken by this scene. After a moment of silence, the air was filled with gasps of shock. The old madam, already grieving her son, wept even more bitterly at her daughter-in-law's desperate act, crying out, "My son, why must you suffer like this?" Noble ladies dabbed at their tears. Someone sighed. What a resolute woman. She charged forward, clearly prepared to die. The empress, standing by the emperor, witnessed the scene with reddened eyes and spoke with emotion.
Your Majesty, Lady Dingyuan's virtue and profound loyalty are moving. The heroic Dingyuan household is so loyal that even their daughter-in-law is unyielding. Truly admirable.
Now the emperor was also moved. He looked up and sighed.
Such a virtuous and steadfast woman, willing to die alongside her husband, should indeed be honored as a model for all women under heaven. The Empress is absolutely right.
The emperor clearly issued a decree.
Draft the decree. Lady Lin of Ding Yuan, for her virtue, is titled Second Rank Lady. Bestow upon her 100 gold tiles and 50 silk bolts.
Upon hearing this, everyone in the Ding Yuan Marquis household temporarily suppressed their grief. After all, this was a tremendous honor for their family. Supported by her relatives, the old madam led everyone to kneel and receive the imperial decree. This old woman, "Thank you, your majesty, for your immense grace." Kneeling among the crowd, the corners of my mouth curled into a barely noticeable smile. The faster and higher the emperor bestows his rewards, the more disastrous the fall will be when the time comes. The higher you climb, the harder you crash, ending in utter ruin. Inside the soft tent, the air was thick with the smell of blood. Lin Chuxue was placed on a soft couch. The wound on her forehead had been hastily covered with a clean white cloth by a palace maid, but fresh blood quickly seeped through again. Gucci hurriedly squeezed in from outside, dressed in plain mourning clothes. The face that was usually gentle and jade-like was now filled with anxiety. He quickly walked to the couch and looked at the unconscious Lin Chuxue. A trace of undisguisable pain and panic flashed in his eyes. He turned to look at me, his voice tinged with a suppressed,
Miss, is she okay?
Looking at her so full of affection, my stomach churned. In my previous life, it was this same hypocritical face that brought me soup every day, saying, "Wan Yo, you must take good care of yourself." But then, on the day I had a difficult labor, she turned around and embraced her sister-in-law, smiling as she watched me breathe my last. I suppressed the hatred in my heart and put on a look of helpless anxiety. I turned to look at the governor standing beside the empress and said, "Nanny, has the imperial physician arrived yet? My sister has lost so much blood. Please have the physician take a look at her quickly. She is now the consort personally appointed by His Majesty, a model for all women of great Chu. Nothing must go wrong." If I remember correctly, at this time Lin Chuxu was already 1 month pregnant. In my previous life, the reason she was so eager to send me into the Marquis's manor was to make it easier to swap the child. Gu Ting was away on campaign for a year. If she gave birth to the child, it would surely be a capital offense, so they plotted to have me marry Gu Ti, and after she secretly gave birth, they would claim that I had died in childbirth and the child was mine. A classic case of switching flowers and trees. Not only would this protect their illegitimate child, but it would also allow the child to rightfully become the legitimate grandson of the Marquis of Dingyuan, and even inherit the title in the future. From beginning to end, I was nothing but an incubator, a disposable cover for their scheme. This time, I am determined to make sure she is pregnant right under the emperor's nose. I want to expose everything openly in front of the entire court of civil and military officials. I want his personally bestowed second-rank title to become a guillotine hanging over both his and Guxi's heads. As soon as I finished speaking, Guxi's expression visibly changed. He abruptly straightened up, his eyes darting away as he anxiously tried to stop me.
No, this is too much trouble. We are outside the city in crude conditions, and palace physicians are elite. Let's forget it. Once home, I will send for the capital's best doctor to treat my sister-in-law.
His eyes were full of concern, but he was also afraid that if the imperial physician took her pulse, Lin Chuxu's disgraceful secret of being 1 month pregnant would be completely exposed. He reached out his hand, seemingly wanting to... He tried to stop me again, but how could I let him have his way? I suddenly stood up and spoke urgently and loudly. "Second young Master Gu, what are you saying? My sister sacrificed herself for the Marquis. Her loyalty moves heaven and earth. Does she not deserve to be treated by the imperial physician? She was just honored by His Majesty as a virtuous widow, and she is also your sister-in-law by marriage. She has lost so much blood. If something happens to her on the way back to the residence, can you bear that responsibility? Can you face your elder brother whose body was never recovered?" My voice was loud, every word filled with pain for my sister, and dissatisfaction with Gu Qi. Even the officials and ladies outside the tent could hear me clearly. The matron by the Empress's side also felt that Gu Qi's actions were highly inappropriate, and she frowned and nodded, saying,
Miss Linger is absolutely right. The Marchioness is a pillar of the nation, and both His Majesty and Her Majesty are deeply concerned outside. Quickly summon Imperial Physician Zhang from the Department of Rites to come in.
Veteran Imperial Physician Zhang, famed for his skill, hurried in with his medicine chest. Gu Ziji was sweating, gripping her hem, longing to stop them.
Zhang, she just has a cut. Skip the pulse and stop the bleeding.
In my previous life, Lin Chuxue had only bumped herself lightly and remained conscious, so she casually found an excuse to politely refuse the imperial physician. After returning home, she secretly nursed her injuries, and no one ever discovered her pregnancy. But now, she had truly crashed into the coffin and lost consciousness, unable even to speak, a perfect opportunity to reveal everything. Without hesitation, I stepped forward. Protecting Gu Si like a shield, I glared at him with red eyes. "Second young master, why block the physician? She is my sister, and I won't let anyone delay her care." My desperate protection was moving to all. Just then, the Empress entered, supported by maids. Her cold gaze swept over Guzi as she asked,
What's happening? How's the Marchioness? Master Gu, why are you blocking the physician?
Guzi's legs nearly gave out and he almost knelt down, stammering as he spoke.
Sire, I just didn't want to disturb my sister-in-law.
Nonsense.
The Empress snorted coldly.
Physician Zhang, hurry and help her.
As you wish.
Imperial Physician Zhang grabbed his medicine box and hurried to the bedside. The elderly Marchioness of Dingyuan arrived, watching in distress as blood streamed from Lin Chuxui's head. Whether genuine or not, she had to put on an appearance of concern for the new second-rank title holder. Zheng placed a silk cloth on Chuxui's wrist to check her pulse. Inside the canopy, there was a deathly silence. Only the faint sound of everyone's breathing could be heard. After a while, Imperial Physician Zhang's brows furrowed slightly. He switched to her other hand, closed his eyes, and carefully felt her pulse. The expression on his face shifted from confusion to shock, and finally turned into an indescribable horror and panic. His fingers suddenly trembled, recoiling as if shocked by electricity, and cold sweat instantly broke out on his forehead. I had been watching him intently the whole time, and seeing this, I immediately raised my voice, crying out with a sob, "Physician, what's wrong? Did something happen to my sister? Is her head injury serious?" Tears streamed down my face as I threw myself beside my sister, tightly gripping her cold hand, calling her name over and over. Imperial Physician Zhang suddenly dropped to his knees with a thud, kowtowing repeatedly to the Empress and the old madam, his voice trembling.
Your Majesties, the head injury is serious but not fatal. With some medicine, she will recover. However,
the old madam grew anxious, leaning on her cane as she urged and instructed. "Why are you, Imperial Physician, stammering like this?" Imperial Physician Zhang swallowed hard, steeling himself as he replied,
I wonder if I'm just getting old and muddle-headed, but Madam Hao's pulse is strong and steady, just like a pulse of joy. It appears she has been this way for over a month.
When pulse of joy was mentioned, it shocked everyone. The room fell silent, the air freezing as expressions turned to stone. I broke the silence, feigning confusion. In a genuine tone I said, "Physician Zhang, what nonsense is this? What pulse of joy? The Marquis left the capital a year ago, right after our wedding. How could my younger sister, who has been sitting completely alone in her dark room all this time, possibly have a sudden pulse of joy? Are you becoming senile in your old age? Or what is going on with you?"
Nonsense. My sister-in-law is pure. It can't be a pulse of joy. You're insulting the Marquis's house.
I also stood up, looking furious, and pointed at the Imperial Physician, scolding him. "Imperial Physician, my cousin has only been married into the Marquis's household for a year, but who hasn't praised her for being virtuous and gentle? Now that the Marquis has died in battle, she was so grief-stricken that she even tried to follow him in death, not caring for her own life. How could you slander such a loyal and virtuous woman by claiming she is pregnant? What are your intentions?" Imperial Physician Zhang, who is also a person of integrity, has served in the Imperial Medical Bureau her whole life and values her reputation above all. Now, being accused by us one after another, her temper flared as well. She straightened her back and retorted loudly,
I have served in the Medical Bureau for 40 years, through 2 reigns, without a single error. This pregnancy pulse is as clear as beads rolling on a plate. If I misdiagnosed this, I would ruin my reputation. Miss Linger, second young Master Gu, if you doubt me, you are free to invite other physicians. I will stake my head on this diagnosis.
Seeing Guzi sweating profusely and on the verge of collapse, I knew the timing was right. I added fuel to the fire, suddenly turned around, and knelt heavily before the Empress with a loud thud, bowing my head forcefully. "Your Majesty, please stand up for my elder sister," I cried out hoarsely, begging. "Please summon a few more Imperial physicians. The Marquis has just died in battle, his body not yet cold, and my sister wanted to follow him in death out of love. Her fate still uncertain, yet there are incompetent physicians slandering my sister like this. This is not only an insult to my sister, but also a disgrace to the spirit of the late Marquis Dingyuan. I beg your Majesty to thoroughly investigate." The argument inside the tent was so loud that the officials and their families outside had already heard everything clearly. The Emperor, who had been outside discussing funeral arrangements with the Minister of Rites, frowned when he heard the commotion inside. With 2 personal Imperial physicians and a group of ministers, he strode into the tent.
What is all this commotion? Such a lack of decorum.
The Emperor roared. The Empress, pale, gave Physician Zhang's diagnosis to him. His glare swept the unconscious Ling Chuxu and trembling Guzi like a blade. Then he ordered coldly,
Physicians Wang and Li examine the Marchioness. A misdiagnosis costs Zhang his life, but if you're right...
The Emperor let out a cold snort. He did not continue speaking. The 2 Imperial physicians immediately accepted the order and stepped forward. Inside the tent, there was utter silence. Everyone's heart was in their throat. After only a short while, Imperial Physician Wang and Imperial Physician Li exchanged a glance, each seeing shock and fear in the other's eyes. In unison, they both stepped back, knelt at the Emperor's feet, and their voices rang out clearly for all to hear.
Your Majesty, Physician Zhang is correct. Lady Dingyuan is over a month pregnant.
I gasped in surprise, instantly covering my mouth, collapsing to the ground in utter disbelief. Outside the tent, the ladies erupted into chaos, their whispers surging like a tidal wave.
Marquis Dingyuan has been away for a year, but she's a month pregnant. Whose child is this? Days after their wedding, the Marquis left for the border. The long nights were too much for the Marchioness. She likely gave in to loneliness. You can't judge by appearances. Just now, she acted so dramatic, as if she'd rather die. Everyone saw her as virtuous, but she's pregnant out of wedlock and tried to die to hide her shame. She was just honored as a virtuous widow, so this pregnancy is a crime of deceiving the emperor. I've never heard of such a thing. The Marquis's residence must be scandalous. Even the younger brother stays unmarried and hangs around his sister-in-law. Who knows what's happening?
Every word was like a sharp sting, striking both the Dingyuan and Wei households. The emperor and empress's faces darkened like a storm. The emperor had just praised him as a national model, yet he was suddenly and utterly humiliated. A blatant provocation to the crown. The old madam nearly blacked out, clutching her nanny's hand, and trembling as blood seeped from the bed. Just as she was about to erupt, Lin Chuxue groaned, and slowly opened her eyes. As soon as she woke up, sensing the strange atmosphere, he felt as if his head was about to split from pain. Looking at the room full of people, he immediately played the role of a devoted woman. With a face full of sorrow, he struggled to sit up, tears streaming down. "Why did you save me?" he cried weakly. "Just let me follow my husband in death. His body is gone. What meaning is there for me to live? It would be better to let me die." If he had said this earlier, it would have moved everyone to tears. But now, he was met with nothing but cold contempt. The old madam of the Marquis of Dingyuan's household could no longer restrain herself, rushing to the bedside in a few quick steps. She spat at him fiercely. "Pa, you shameless wretch, how dare you even mention Tinka? How dare you talk about living or dying?" Lin Chuxue was completely bewildered by the sudden spit in her face. She stared blankly at her mother-in-law, who had always treated her kindly, and murmured, "Mother, what are you saying? I don't understand." I rushed forward in a panic, grabbed her wrist, and cried out in anguish, "Sister, you're being foolish. Whose child is it that you're carrying?" Lin Chuxue's face instantly turned deathly pale, her mind exploding with a buzzing sound. "Well, what child?" I pointed at her belly and rebuked loudly. "3 imperial physicians have already consulted and confirmed that you are 1 month pregnant. Sister, you're being foolish. The Marquis gave his life for the country. He is a great hero. How could you, just because you were left alone in an empty room and couldn't bear the loneliness, fail to uphold your virtue as a wife and do something so disgraceful to our family's reputation? Every word I say is filled with tears and meant to pierce your heart. How are our parents supposed to face others? How is the Dowager Marchioness of Dingyuan supposed to carry herself? Can you face the imperial decree that His Majesty just bestowed upon you? Sister, you've studied the teachings for women since childhood. How could you act like this? Just tell me the truth, sister. Whose child is this really? Was it some scoundrel who forced you? My father, the Duke of Wei, and my mother, who had rushed over in haste after hearing the news from the officials' camp in the rear, happened to overhear my words just outside the tent. My mother nearly fainted from anger on the spot, her eyes rolling back. My father, the Duke of Wei, was trembling all over with rage, his face flushed bright red. My mother burst into the tent, ignoring my aunt's attempts to stop her, grabbed Lin Chuxue's arm, her nails digging deep into her flesh, and demanded in a sharp voice,
"You know better than this. I raised you well. You wouldn't do something so disgraceful alone. Who forced you? Speak up."
Even at this critical moment, her mother was still trying to find excuses for Lin Chuxue, hoping to save the Lin family's reputation. As long as Lin Chuxue insisted that she was forced by a villain, although her reputation would be ruined, it would not be a capital offense. Lin Chuxue trembled uncontrollably. The sharp pain in her forehead and the overwhelming fear left her mind blank. She could only stammer, unable to speak. In her terror, she instinctively looked toward Gushiding Yuanho, who was standing to the side. However, the old madam was not pleased. She let out a cold laugh, her gaze as sharp as a knife. "Madame Gogong, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to throw dirt on our Marquis Dingyuan's household? Our Dingyuan Marquis family is strictly managed, with heavy security in the courtyards. Only wives with legitimate ties can enter the inner quarters. How could some random scoundrel sneak past everyone to force her? Chuxue, I'll ask you just one thing today. Whose bastard child is it in your belly?" Gucci, standing to the side, broke out in a cold sweat, her legs feeling as heavy as lead, unable to move. She could feel Lin Chuxue's desperate gaze pleading for help. But she immediately averted her gaze, lowered her head, and ignored his pleading eyes. Clearly, she wanted him to bear this enormous crime all by himself. I sneered inwardly. Ha! Didn't they claim to be madly in love in my previous life? They went so far as to deceive their way into marriage, even forcing me to my death just to be together. I really want to see, at this moment of life and death, under the watchful eyes of the entire court, just how strong this so-called true love is. Will they turn on each other like rabid dogs? I took a step forward. I tightly grasped Lin Chuxue's hand and spoke with greater emphasis. "Sister, if you have been wronged in any way, you must speak up. In front of His Majesty and Her Majesty the Empress. What are you afraid of? The Emperor is benevolent and sees all with clarity. His Majesty just granted you a noble title. You are a virtuous woman personally honored by the imperial decree. If you truly have an illicit affair, that would be the capital crime of deceiving the sovereign, a crime punishable by the extermination of your entire clan." This completely shattered Lin Chuxue's psychological defenses. Her whole body began to tremble violently, and tears mixed with blood streamed down her face. The old lady, furious, struck the ground hard with her cane and pointed at her, shouting angrily, "If you won't speak, then drag her out and punish her according to family law in front of the entire city. Beat her to death, even if it means the Gu family will have no descendants left. We cannot bear such disgrace." The Gu family patriarch and several elders who had come with the old lady were also so enraged that their beards bristled and their eyes bulged in fury.
What a disaster for our family. Drag this shameless Chen Tang away.
The Marquis of Dingyuan's household knew well that this matter had angered His Majesty. Seeing the Emperor's face grow darker and darker, they had to quickly shift the blame. There was no way the entire Marquisate could be buried along with him. With tears in my eyes, I looked at Sister D and questioned her in anguish. Sister, you are the legitimate eldest daughter of our Lin family. Since childhood, father and mother had high hopes for you, teaching you music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. How could you do something so shameless, even if you don't care about yourself? Are you also unconcerned about the lives of the hundreds of people in the Lin family? Father, the Duke of Wei, also wore a grim expression, his eyes filled with resolve.
Name your lover, or the Lins will disown you. Today, before the Emperor, the Duke of Wei severs all ties.
Facing crises inside and out, Lin Chuxue finally broke. In despair, she glanced at the motionless Gu Qi, eyes flashing with madness. She knelt before the old madam, wailing, "Mother, my unborn child." It's not a bastard child, it's Gu Qi's own flesh and blood. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole room erupted in an uproar. Gu Qi seemed to be struck by lightning. His legs gave out and he collapsed to the ground, drenched in sweat, his whole body turning into a puddle of mush. The resentment that had been stuck in my chest was finally vented in this moment. In this lifetime, their illicit affair was not only exposed in public, but it happened in such a desperate situation where all eyes were on them, and deception of the sovereign was at stake. Now I want to see how this selfish, sharp-tongued Gu Qi plans to clean up this mess. Gu Qi, his face ashen, lay prostrate on the ground, repeatedly banging his head against the floor. Very soon, his forehead began to bleed.
Your Majesty, please forgive me.
The old madam of Marquis Dingyuan's household was struck as if by lightning, stumbling back several steps. If the maid hadn't held her tightly, she would have already fallen to the ground. She pointed at Gu Qi in disbelief, stammering, What did you say?" Before she could finish, the old madam, summoning strength from who knows where, suddenly rushed forward and raised her hand. Smack! A heavy slap landed hard on Gu Qi's face. "You beast, wretched thing! How dare you commit such a disgraceful act, ruining family morals, an affair between uncle and sister-in-law? How could you face your elder brother, whose body is barely cold in the grave? I'll beat you to death, you unfilial wretch!" The old madam, trembling with rage and tears streaming down her face, raised her cane to strike Gu Qi. Gu Qi knelt on the ground, dodging, while sobbing bitterly and trying to defend herself.
Mother, your son knows he was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. But then, my brother just married before leaving for war. He and Chuxue weren't truly a couple yet.
He looked up, sobbing and sniffling as he pleaded.
Mother, I've always loved Chuxue. The Emperor's arranged marriage split us up, but please, let us be together. She's pregnant with my child, your own grandchild, and the Marquis's only grandson.
Lin Chuxue saw Gu Qi pleading for her. Like a drowning person clutching at a life-saving straw, the wild elephant crawled over and hugged the old madam's leg, crying and begging. "Mother, I didn't mean to do it. Before the Marquis went to the battlefield, he told me that if he died in battle, I must live well and not remain chaste for him. He allowed me to remarry. My husband died for the country. Wasn't this his last wish? Why can't you let us be together?" I was almost amused to death by this. How could he be so shameless, turning his infidelity into fulfilling a dying wish? She tried to justify her affair with her brother-in-law as something she had no choice in. I immediately stepped forward and sternly interrupted her absurd claims. "Elder sister, the Marquis was a great hero. He cared for you and couldn't bear for you to remain a widow at such a young age, so he allowed you to remarry in the future, but that should only happen after his funeral, in accordance with proper rites and customs. But sister, feel your own belly. Even a month ago, the news of the Marquis's death hadn't yet reached the capital. While the Marquis was fighting and bleeding on the front lines, you were secretly having an affair with your brother-in-law in the inner chambers. How could you betray him like this? How are we supposed to preserve the Lin family's century-old reputation after what you've done?" My words completely tore away their last shred of dignity. Father let out a long sigh for the sake of the Duke, flung his sleeve, and knelt heavily before the Emperor, tears streaming down his face.
Your Majesty, this old minister has failed to teach his daughter properly. I am ashamed before your Majesty, ashamed before Great Chu, for having raised such a disgraceful child who has brought shame upon our family. I humbly beg your Majesty to revoke the title of Duke, and to severely punish this rebellious daughter.
The Emperor presided, looking grim at the two slumped on the ground with disappointment and disgust.
Lin Chuxue, for this reason,
His voice was coldly cruel.
the two of you have completely disregarded both the laws of the state and the rules of your family. I ought to have you executed by dismemberment as a warning to others.
The Emperor paused, his gaze falling on the distant coffin, and sighed.
But considering that Marquis Dingyuan has just sacrificed his life for the country and his body is not yet cold, I do not wish to shed blood at his funeral. I do not wish to disturb his spirit, therefore I will spare your lives.
Back then, it was I who bestowed the marriage between the Marquis of Dingyuan's household and the Duke of Wei's household. Now, I shall also be the one to decide.
By my decree, Lady Lin of Marquis Dingyuan's house has dishonored her marriage. Revoke her second-rank title and let the Marquis divorce her. Gu Ting, from this day on, you are no longer his wife.
Lin Chuxue collapsed in despair, hopeless. The Emperor closed his eyes, looking pained.
What a pity. Minister Guo died for the state, and now even his two devoted mourners are gone. A true tragedy for Great Chu.
Hearing those words, a glimmer of hope flashed in my eyes. Back then, the imperial edict for the marriage between our families named the Duke of Wei's daughter, but never specified which one. Naturally, the eldest daughter, Lin Chukshu, was the one married off, but now, a chance to become a widow appeared. In my past life, marriage hurt me. Now, I have no desire for it, but if I refuse, my father would send me to a convent or marry me off cheaply. Instead, I'll request an imperial decree to marry the late Marquis Ding Yuan. As his widow, I can preserve my family's reputation and earn the respect of his household and the emperor. Once I have adopted an heir, I will become the true master of the Marquis Ding Yuan's household. Behind closed doors, I can live a life of wealth and comfort. Who would dare to bully me then? Thinking of this, I took a deep breath and suddenly knelt before the emperor with a loud thud, bowing my head heavily. Your Majesty, I looked up, my gaze resolute. My voice was clear and resolute. The Marquis of Ding Yuan is a loyal and valiant servant. For my sister's disgrace, the Lin family cannot escape blame. I, Lin Wanyue, will atone for our sins. Looking at His Majesty, I said, I am willing to marry in my sister's place as a widow to the Marquis of Ding Yuan. The Marquis is still in mourning, observing the rites of filial piety. My words shocked every official present. Even the emperor and empress cried out in shock. The empress looked at me in astonishment, as if she were looking at a monster.
Miss Ling, are you sure? The Marquis is dead. If you marry into that family, you're marrying a ghost. You'll be living in solitude, a widow forever.
Once again, I bowed deeply, my back straight. I, your subject, am willing. The Marquis of Ding Yuan sacrificed his life for the country, unmatched in loyalty and courage. A true hero who stands tall. Though I am a woman, I understand the meaning of loyalty and righteousness. I am willing to remain faithful to him for life, and will never bring even the slightest disgrace to his name. I looked at the tearful Dowager Marchioness of Ding Yuan. If the Marquisate agrees, after marrying in, I will adopt and raise a clan child as heir to continue the lineage. The hero's legacy will endure. Moved by my duty, the Empress looked at my father kneeling nearby.
Duke Wei said, it seems that not everyone in the Lin family is shameless. Second Miss Lin's loyalty and integrity truly make her a model for all women under heaven.
Admiration and satisfaction flashed in the Emperor's eyes. She nodded, her face full of delight.
Such a loyal and courageous Miss Ling. Minister Gu, if you knew of this in the afterlife, you would surely be comforted.
Attendance! The Emperor rose and called out clearly.
For her loyalty and virtue, Lin Wanyue is named Lady of Chaste Matron and wed to Gu Ting, Marquis of Ding Yuan. She receives 1,000 gold taels, land, timber, and a chastity archway.
The imperial edict was read aloud on the spot, its voice echoing above the city gates. Everyone looked at me in shock. At this moment, I replaced Lin Chukshui and became the center of everyone's attention. The difference was, she relied on acting and deception, while I relied on open and upright strategy. Lin Chukshu's white jade hairpin and school uniform were ruthlessly stripped off by several burly matrons. With her hair disheveled, she pointed and screamed, but in her utter disgrace, she was dragged away by the butchers. Following the old madam's strict instructions, Lin Chukshu was sent to the ancestral hall to await her punishment. Meanwhile, I changed into the formal mourning attire of a principal wife. Holding Marquis Gu Ting's memorial tablet with steady hands, I walked steadily at the very front of the wedding procession. The citizens of the entire city, moved by my sacrifice, knelt in silence as I passed through the wind. Tears fell on the spot.
With such a virtuous wife, the spirit of Marquis Ding Yuan can finally rest in peace, but Princess Jen was truly careless.
I stood at the very front of the procession, the cold wind blowing through my long hair. My eyes were red as I gently wiped away the tears I had prepared at the corner of my eyes with a handkerchief. My voice was mournful, yet strong. Ying, my husband, returned home. Just as the funeral procession was about to set off and the mourning music was about to play again, a sudden frantic sound of horse hooves came racing down the official road in the distance, the rider charging forward like an arrow, released from a bow. He broke through the obstacles ahead. The man on the horse was covered in blood, holding a golden token high in his hand, and shouted hoarsely at the top of his lungs, his voice cracking from the strain.
Urgent news from 800 miles. Marquis Ding Yuan is back.
That shout was like a drop of water falling into a boiling pot of oil, instantly causing an uproar. The messenger cavalry charged to the city gate, but, exhausted, he tumbled heavily from his horse. Ignoring his injuries, he scrambled and crawled, finally kneeling before the emperor with a thud, tears streaming down his face in excitement.
Your Majesty, great news! The Marquis survived a poisoned arrow and a fall, rescued by local farmers. His poison is suppressed, and he is returning to the capital, under guard now.
The emperor rose, his face beaming, and laughed at the sky.
Great. Gu Ting is alive. Heaven protects our Great Chu's generals.
The emperor then decreed.
Quick, get horses and all imperial physicians. Bring the best medicines and leave now to assist Lord Gu. No mistakes.
In an instant, the news that Marquis Ding Yuan had come back from the dead swept through the city gates like a whirlwind. Everyone snapped out of their grief and erupted in thunderous cheers.
The Marquis is alive. He is truly blessed. Surviving such danger brings great fortune. The Emperor values him highly, so he'll surely be promoted with even more titles now.
Holding the memorial tablet, I stood frozen in place. What? He's not dead? In my previous life, Gu Ting really and truly died, so completely that not even a single bone was recovered in the end. How could he have come back alive in this life? Could it be that the butterfly effect from my rebirth has changed the course of certain events? While I was still in shock, my mind blank, the old madam of the Marquis Dingyuan's household had already walked over, surrounded by a crowd. The old madam grabbed my hand tightly. The fierceness she showed when scolding Gucci just now was gone, replaced entirely by kindness and joy. She looked at me as if I were a radiant goddess of fertility, praising me repeatedly. Good child, you are truly blessed. Just as you said you wanted to marry into our Gu family, news of Pinger's survival arrived. You are the lucky star of our Marquis Dingyuan's household. The old madam patted the back of my hand and solemnly declared, as far as I'm concerned, you are the only daughter-in-law I recognize. Now that Tinger is still alive, once she returns and recovers, I will personally request an imperial decree from His Majesty and arrange the grandest wedding for you both. You will not be treated unfairly in the slightest. She never once mentioned Lin Chukshu, who was kneeling in the ancestral hall, for her lack of virtue. In her eyes, I was the main wife who stepped forward in a time of crisis, saved the Marquis's household, and brought prosperity. I kept returning to the Dingyuan Marquis's residence. He was carried back to the manor, late at night, 2 days later. Although his life was saved due to the severity of the poisoning and the long journey, he stayed unconscious. The emperor sent doctors to the residence. The physician found lingering poison, but said he'd wake after resting. Due to the old madam's orders and my role in the assassination attempt, the household treated me with respect. Servants called me madam and obeyed me. I received the inner courtyard keys and tokens easily. Meanwhile, Lin Chushui and Gucci knelt in the cold, damp ancestral hall for 3 days and nights without a drop of water, exposed to both hunger and cold. By the time the servants dragged them out like dead dogs, they were barely alive. In the main hall, the old madam sat upright in the Grand Master's chair, looking down at the two of them trembling on their knees, her face openly displaying her contempt. You two wretches committing such shameless acts, you've utterly disgraced both the Gu and Lin families. The old madam looked coldly at Lin Chukshui. Lin Chukshui, now that the emperor himself has decreed your expulsion, you are no longer a member of the Gu family. Go wherever you wish, but get out of the Dingyuan Marquis manor at once. Lin Chukshui, still suffering from an unhealed wound on her forehead and weakened after kneeling for 3 days, was utterly exhausted. Hearing that she was being driven out, she was terrified, her soul nearly leaving her body. She kowtowed repeatedly, crying and begging, "Mother, please have mercy, please stand up for your daughter-in-law." But Chukshu is already carrying the second young master's child. Now my reputation is ruined, and the Lin family will never take me back. If I leave through this door, I have no choice but to die. I beg mother, for the sake of the child in my womb, please let me stay. That is why, even though she had been beaten black and blue by the old madam, she knew that if she abandoned Lin Chukshu at this moment, she would be criticized even more harshly, so she pleaded bitterly.
Mother, any mistakes are all my fault. But Chukshui's child is a Gu. Back then, we truly loved each other. It was fate. She is suffering so much. We couldn't help it.
Unable to control my emotions, I picked up the blue and white porcelain teacup at hand, skimmed off the foam, and couldn't help but let out a scornful, cold laugh. Second young master, what do you mean by these words? I stood up, looking down at them from above. If you truly had feelings for my sister back then, why didn't you risk everything to express your intentions when His Majesty bestowed the marriage? Among the Lin family's daughters of this generation, both legitimate and concubine-born, there were 5 who were of marriageable age. His Majesty never specified a name. Was it my father who forced my sister to marry into the Marquis of Dingyuan's household at knife point? My sister committed such disgraceful acts, dragging the Lin family's century-old reputation through the mud. Are you saying it's our Lin family who wronged her? Second young master, you claim to love and admire my sister, yet you didn't even have the courage to fight for her once. You're timid and indecisive. How can you call yourself a real man? What's even more laughable is that you never dared to speak up before. Yet you chose to seduce your own sister-in-law precisely when your elder brother was away at war, his fate uncertain. Taking advantage of someone's vulnerability without any sense of decency is truly despicable. My words cut into Gucci like a knife. She was both ashamed and angry but had nothing to say in response. Lin Chushui, however, seemed to have been struck where it hurt and screamed, pointing at me and cursing. Lin Wanyue, stop pretending to be so righteous and making sarcastic remarks here. What do you know about being left alone in an empty room? If you were the one who got married and your husband left the very next day, not even a letter for a year or half, I don't believe you would be content to wither away in that tiny room. I scoffed disdainfully, my gaze filled with utter contempt. Even if I died, I would never be as shameless as you. What makes a person human is propriety, righteousness, integrity, and a sense of shame. Someone like you, who disregards morality and engages in illicit affairs, what right do you have to compare yourself to me? You're simply insulting me. The old madam grew impatient listening to this, letting out a heavy sigh, her eyes full of nothing but exhaustion. The two of you have done such disgraceful things in the Marquis's residence, bringing shame to the family and causing a scandal throughout the city. I can no longer manage this. He glanced at Lin Chushui's slightly bulging belly, and in the end his heart softened a little for the sake of family blood. Therefore, since you insist on having him, then do as you wish. News has already come from the Lin family. Duke Wei has invited the clan elder to open the ancestral hall, and Lin Chukshu's name has already been... His name was expunged from the family records. He is now just a commoner. When Lin Chukshu heard she was expelled, it was like a bolt from the blue. She broke down in a frantic scene, trying to throw herself against a pillar, but was held back by servants. With no choice, she crawled to the old madam and clutched her leg.
Mother, I beg you, Chukshue has nowhere else to go. Please let her marry me.
The old madam struck her cane once and coldly made her decision. As for being the main wife, she shouldn't even dream about it. Considering she's pregnant, I'll allow her to be your lowly concubine without any official status, and she can follow you. There's no need for her to dress up so as not to embarrass us in public. Go to the accounting office yourself, get some silver, pack your things, and move immediately to the side courtyard in the back. From today on, you and your brother will split the family. The expenses for the second branch will be cut off from the main household. You are on your own from now on. Gucci suddenly looked up, his eyes full of disbelief.
Split the family? Mother, I am your own son. Is my older brother your only son? And I am not. How can you be so heartless to me? If I don't allow her to bleed, how will the child survive? If she just silently becomes my concubine, how will I face guests in the future? Won't people laugh at me to death?
I coldly interrupted him. Uncle, what you said is wrong again. If you openly and grandly marry a widowed sister-in-law who has been shamed, then the Dingyuan Marquis Manor will become the biggest laughingstock in the entire capital. You have no bottom line and no sense of shame. The Marquis Manor and the old madame still care about their reputation. When Lin Chuxu heard what I said, she struggled and cursed at me. Lin Wanyue, don't get too pleased with yourself too soon. Although Gu Ting isn't dead yet, she's been poisoned and is still unconscious. Even the imperial physicians say her chances are slim. Whether she wakes up or not is uncertain. Maybe after you marry in, you'll have to take off your wedding dress right away, put on mourning clothes, and become a real widow. Smack! Without hesitation, I stepped forward and slapped her hard across her already injured face. How dare you curse my husband? I shouted sternly, my gaze sharp and cold.
Lin Chuxue, are you very disappointed that I'm not dead?
Suddenly, a clear yet weak voice, brimming with boundless authority, came from outside the main hall. My heart trembled as I whipped around, only to see a tall, upright figure slowly stepping over the threshold with the support of two personal guards. He had sword-like brows and starry eyes. Though his face was pale and thin from poisoning, those dark eyes were as sharp and piercing as cold blades. Still in a loose robe with bandages visible beneath, this was the Marquis Dingyuan, newly conscious, my nominal husband, Gu Ting. Seeing him appear like the king of hell, Gu Qi and Lin Chuxue collapsed in terror, not daring to look up. Shaking violently, the old madam pushed Momo aside and rushed forward, grabbing his hand through her tears. My son! You've finally woken up. The imperial physician said it would be several more days before you regained consciousness. How did you get up on your own? Quickly, help the Marquis sit down. Gu Ting allowed his mother to help him to the seat of honor. She comfortingly patted the old madam's hand, and only then did her gaze slowly sweep over the two people kneeling on the ground. The hall was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The aura of lethal authority, honed through countless battles and carnage, made it hard for Gu Qi even to breathe. Gu Ting's voice was not loud, yet every word struck the hearts of the two like a heavy blow.
Miss Lin, after our royal marriage, war broke out. I left the next day. Knowing the danger, I left our marriage unconsummated, fearing I'd ruin your life if I fell.
He looked at Lin Chuxue's terrified face, his tone so calm it was unsettling.
I remember very clearly that on the night before I left, I handed you the housekeeper's keys and personally told you, don't feel guilty for me. If you feel lonely or love another, just tell my mother and remarry. I've already signed a divorce letter and left it in the study's secret compartment.
Lin Chuxue glanced up, shocked.
I have explained everything to you, leaving no detail out. I have given you dignity and freedom, all possible ways out.
Gu Ting's gaze gradually turned cold, but
what about you? Why do you insist on keeping the title of the Marquis of Dingyuan's wife? Or while secretly doing things that disgrace the family? If you truly like him, you could just take the letter of release and leave. Why must you bring such shame upon me and the Gu family?
Splashing us with filth, Lin Chuxue was speechless. Was it for love? He was just greedy for status and couldn't bear loneliness. Gu Ting ignored him and turned to Gu Qi, curled up, with deep disappointment and
you, Gu Qi? My dear brother.
Gu Ting scoffed, Father.
Father passed early, leaving mother to manage the household. As your eldest brother, I raised and protected you, providing every resource. I thought you were merely weak, lacking in both arts and combat. I fought on the front lines to ensure you a life of leisure in the capital, but I never imagined you would lack basic decency. You shamed us with your sister-in-law, then tried to marry the Ling family's daughter, just to cover your tracks.
Gu Ting slammed the table hard, making the teacups clatter loudly.
You disgust me. From now on, you are no son of mine. Go to your courtyard and stay out of the main hall.
That night, Lin Chuxu and Gu Qi were driven by servants to a remote, dilapidated courtyard. Lin Chuxu, once the mistress, became a despised concubine. Servants treated the disgraced woman with total contempt. Since the old madam split the family, Gu Qi, now in the second branch, lost his status as master. They received only a meager allowance, barely enough to survive. However, the Marquis's return restored the family's spirit, sweeping away the gloom. Everyone joyfully prepared for the celebration. Though officially married by imperial edict as the Marchioness of Dingyuan, the old madam insisted that I, the family's lucky star, have a grand wedding once Gu Ting recovered. I stayed in a side room to care for him. One sunny afternoon, I brought his medicine into the bedroom, where he sat leaning against the headboard reading a military book. Seeing me, he put down his book and gazed with penetrating eyes. His sharp features were far handsomer than the pampered look from my previous life. His aura of valor felt incredibly safe. He looked at me with a serious expression.
I heard from my mother that back then, outside the city gates, you were willing to mourn for me as a widow, and even agreed to marry me while holding my memorial tablet.
Stirring the medicine, I calmly replied, the situation was urgent. After my sister's actions, if I hadn't requested an imperial decree, the Lin family's reputation would be ruined, and I'd be sent to a nunnery. I did it to save the household and myself. My lord, you owe me nothing. Gu Ting gazed at me, then let out a soft laugh.
Now that the imperial edict has been issued, you are already my wife, Lin Wanyue. Whether you did it for the Lin family's reputation, or for your own protection, I appreciate your loyalty and courage.
She paused, and her tone became extremely serious.
From now on, you're in charge of the Marquise's household. Ignore Gu Qi and Lin Chuxue. Jukui's family has disowned her, so she's no longer your sister. If anyone bullies you, assert your authority as mistress. No matter what happens, I'll always have your back.
Hearing his words of support, my hand holding the medicine paused and a surge of complex emotions welled up. I sighed. Gu Ting clearly distinguishes between gratitude and resentment and takes responsibility, but I don't understand. He was dead in my previous life, so how is he alive in this one? Could my rebirth have triggered this unforeseen change? Regardless, suddenly having a living, breathing husband contradicts my plan to be a wealthy widow. Since there's no turning back, I'll accept it. At least I've escaped my past nightmares. Even if the Marquis is alive, as long as I manage his household with respect and stay out of his way, he surely won't make things difficult for me when he finds true love. Then I can take Yiji, Uncle Li, and my dowry to live a peaceful, carefree life in Jiangnan. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Smiling gently, I handed him the bowl. My lord, please drink your medicine. Knowing my limits, I held an idle court position. When the Marquis of Dingyuan died, His Majesty intended for me to inherit the title to appease the household. Alert officials caught wind of this and began flattering me, some even rushing to offer their maidservants as concubines. But the Marquis of Dingyuan has returned alive, shattering Gu Qi's hopes of inheriting the title. Worse, his affair with his sister-in-law and his mother's resulting death are now public scandals. At work, colleagues shun him as if he were filth. His superior even stripped him of his duties, sending him home to reflect on his disgrace. He returned home in disgrace. Since the family had split, his courtyard was remote, and no servants would work there. The old madam gave him little inheritance as punishment. Used to spending lavishly, his silver quickly ran out. He couldn't even afford to move out and start his own household. Entering the yard, he saw Lin Chuxue arrogantly cursing a maid. Pregnant and suffering from severe morning sickness, she couldn't keep any food down. Her once delicate and beautiful face was now sallow and haggard. When she saw Gu Qi return, her eyes reddened as she complained, "Where have you been? You're still the second young master of the household. How can those servants dare treat me like this? This morning I just felt nauseous and wanted the kitchen to bring me some sour plums, but that maid, so snobbish, actually said that without a token she wouldn't give me any, and even told me to pay for them myself." The more Lin Chuxu spoke, the more aggrieved she became, tears streaming down her face. "Do they even still see us as their masters? I used to be the lady of the Marquise's household. Weren't all those servants once scrambling to curry favor with me? Now that I've married you, I end up in such a miserable state. I'm still carrying the Gu family's eldest grandson in my belly." Gu Qi had already suffered a bellyful of frustration outside, and now, looking at this woman who had ruined his future and only knew how to complain, his anger flared up all at once. He slammed the chipped teacup on the table and roared,
"Shut up. When you took off your clothes and had an affair with me back then, didn't you know I was just a second son without a title? Wasn't it your own choice for us to be together?"
Lin Chuxue recoiled from his glare, but Gu Qi kept pressing.
"I'm the capital's laughingstock and lost my position. Because of you, I've lost my family's favor, and my future is ruined. Lin Chuxue, had I known, I never would have involved myself with you. Without you dragging me down, I could have begged for forgiveness and a noble marriage. If you make a fuss again, I'll sell you to a brothel."
The two were fighting in the side courtyard, shouting and smashing things, bothering everyone. News reached the main courtyard quickly. Hearing the news, Gu Ting sneered to me, "My second brother."
He's never done anything alone, just relying on the Ho family. With their fall, it's time he learns to struggle for once. Ignore them.
The Marquis of Dingyuan returned to the capital badly injured. For his service, the emperor granted him 6 months to recover at home. 3 months later, under the physicians and my care, he had mostly healed. The old madam immediately began wedding arrangements. As the emperor's favorite, the Marquis is highly influential. Hearing of our marriage, the emperor ordered the imperial household department to provide rare treasures, including a jade ruyi and luminous pearls for my dowry. 3 days before the wedding, as custom dictates, back at the duke's residence, the imperial marriage decree restored our honor after Lin Chuxu's scandal shamed us. Though my mother was cold since I replaced her favorite daughter, my father was overjoyed. Upon my return, he greeted me personally.
He beamed. Wanyue, with the Marquis back, and your marriage decreed by the Emperor, it's a blessing for the Lin family. Without your courage that day, we would have been shamed by the censors.
At my father's wave, the steward stepped up, with a long gift list.
Don't worry, your dowry has already been prepared by your father, down to the last detail. In addition to what the palace provided, I've added half of my own private savings to it. I guarantee that your wedding procession will be grand and magnificent, and you will become the Marchioness of Dingyuan in style. I will not let the Dingyuan Marquisate look down on you.
Before the clarification, my Lin cousins came to my boudoir to add to my dowry. As they gathered around the gold phoenix crown praising it, a flustered servant rushed in with a message.
"Second miss, something's wrong. The eldest miss has come back. Master said she has already been removed from the family register and ordered the gatekeepers not to let her into the residence. Now she's making a scene outside the gate, rolling on the ground and causing a commotion, attracting a large crowd of onlookers.
My married eldest cousin, known for her temper, spat in disgust and threw her handkerchief down. She nearly ruined our family's reputation, yet she dares return. What a disgrace. I calmly stood and straightened my clothes. It doesn't matter. It's my wedding eve, no time for conflict. I'll see what she's up to. At the main gate, the door was ajar. A disheveled Lin Chuxue gripped the frame tightly. Ignoring the doorman's attempts to drive her away, she forced her way inside. When she saw me come out, her eyes lit up, and she immediately put on a pitiful expression. Sister, her face was streaked with tears as she looked at me pleadingly. I just heard that you're getting married tomorrow, so I came especially to add to your dowry. In the future, we'll both be sisters-in-law in the Marquis's residence. Now that you've risen so high, why be so heartless and keep me at arm's length? Could it be that now that you're going to be the Marchioness of Dingyuan, you look down on your own sister? When I was the Marchioness, I never looked down on you. She spoke these words very loudly, clearly for the benefit of the onlookers outside, trying to use public opinion to force my hand. My elder cousin, who was following behind me, became furious when she heard this. Pointing at her, she scolded, "After doing such disgraceful things, how do you still have the nerve to show your face? You've already been expelled from the clan, so stop hoping for family ties here." Seeing that her pitiful act was useless, Lin Chuxue immediately revealed her true colors. Her face flushed red as she glared at me viciously. "Lin Wanyue, why did you have to call someone to humiliate me? I admit I did wrong, but are you really so pure and blameless yourself?" She pointed at my nose and shouted sharply, "Even though you and the Marquis of Dingyuan have received an imperial decree for your marriage, you haven't actually gone through the wedding ceremony. Yet for the past 3 months, you've been living alone with him in the same courtyard. I don't believe nothing happened between you two. You're just someone who got pregnant before marriage. What right do you have to mock me?" As soon as she said this, the surroundings fell silent. Such slander against a woman's reputation was extremely malicious. A cold glint flashed in my eyes. I stepped forward, and with a crisp, resounding slap, struck his face hard enough to draw blood. I shouted sternly, my voice carrying an undeniable authority. Back at the city gate, when His Majesty issued the decree for my marriage to the Marquis of Dingyuan, it was by the mandate of heaven. Now that he has returned alive, I am the rightful, imperial-sanctioned lady of the Marquis of Dingyuan. I pressed closer to him, my gaze as sharp as a blade. Today is our wedding day. The Marquis values me because of the old madam, and treats me with respect. My feelings for the Marquis are sincere, but our conduct has always been proper. You claim there is something improper between the Marquis and me, but our relationship is above reproach. Are you saying that the imperial edict granting the marriage is meaningless, or are you questioning the Marquis's character? Lin Chuxue, after being slapped by me, turned her head away and clutched her swollen cheek, shrieking like a shrew. "How dare you hit me? I am your elder sister. I'll tear that vixen face of yours apart." She flailed wildly, trying to lunge at me, but was immediately restrained by the doorman and 2 armed guards, who grabbed her by the hair as easily as catching a chick.
Let's see who dares touch my wife. Gu Ting's bride.
Suddenly a commanding shout came from outside, and the crowd quickly scattered. Gu Ting appeared in a dark red robe, riding a black horse, followed by an elite wedding escort. With the wedding set for tomorrow, Gu Ting had come early to deliver betrothal gifts to the Duke's residence. She dismounted swiftly, walked over, and shielded me. Her face was stern, her gaze sharp as a sword, fixed on Gu Ti, who was trying to slip away.
Gu Ti.
Ting yelled.
If you can't control your lowly concubine and let her come out and bite people like a mad dog, I don't mind disciplining her myself. At that time, I won't care whether she's a woman or whether she's carrying that piece of flesh in her belly. If she dares to show any disrespect to the future Marchioness again, and if I see it one more time, the two of you can get out of the capital together.
Gu Ti panicked, grabbed Lin Chuxue by the hair, and pulled her down hard.
Are you crazy? Do you know what day it is today, and you still dare to make a scene?
Gu Ti shouted angrily, then turned and bowed to Gu Ting.
Brother, please calm down. My fault for not watching her. I'll take her now.
Lin Chuxi's scalp tingled from being yanked, but she was still unwilling to give in, scratching and hitting Gu Ti as she shouted, "Gu Ti, you coward! Even Gu Ting knows to defend his wife in public, but you've never spoken up for me, not even once. Now I'm being humiliated by your big brother in front of everyone, and you don't even dare to utter a word. Are you even a man?" Feeling embarrassed, Gu Ti slapped her hard and dragged her away. Their arguing and scuffling grew more and more distant until it could no longer be heard, leaving behind only a trail of ridicule. The wedding day arrived. The attendant helped me with makeup early. The heavy phoenix crown made it hard to look up. Outside, Gu Ting stood in red robes, leading the procession at the Duke's gates. Surprisingly, the battle-hardened general was eloquent, composing 3 poems for the artists and drawing applause. Finally, the doors opened and the attendant called, "The bride is leaving." Breaking custom, Gu Ting stepped forward and took my hand. He helped me over the brazier and into the sedan chair. This wedding moved the capital. The emperor sent his chief eunuch to bestow blessings. As we left, the Wei Duke's residence had a 10-mile bridal procession. With gifts from the emperor and Marquis, the parade circled the capital, drawing everyone's gaze.
The Lin family's display is grand. Of course, she's marrying as an emperor-titled princess with many imperial gifts. I heard the Marquis of Dingyuan highly values this union. This wedding is held at the highest standard. Naturally, the Marquis values the second miss. She was determined to remain faithful to him. Unlike that shameless Lin Chuxue, who, before all the guests,
Before all, the Marquis of Dingyuan and I bowed to heaven and earth, wed. That night, by flickering candles, Gu Ting lifted my veil. Seeing my shyness, a complex look crossed his eyes. He then handed me a cup of nuptial wine.
His
voice was low and hoarse, carrying a barely noticeable tremor.
Drink this, and now we are bound together forever.
With a flushed face, I drank the nuptial wine, and my past fears vanished. He treated me like a long-lost treasure. That night, I finally understood what it meant to be husband and wife. The next morning, as tradition dictated, Gu Ting and I went to the main hall to serve tea to the matriarch. I was holding the teacup and had just walked up to the matriarch. Before I could kneel, with a bang, the main hall doors were suddenly flung open. Snow blew in, and a woman with disheveled hair, swollen red eyes, looking like a madwoman, rushed in. Without a care, she dropped to her knees with a thud and began wailing loudly. Mother, mother, you must stand up for me. This woman is inhuman. I am carrying his child and have suffered so much. Yet behind my back, she took my dowry and used it to keep a mistress outside. Everyone was shocked. The clan elders in the hall were stunned, looking at each other in disbelief. The matriarch's hand trembled with rage, spilling tea. Nonsense. Why bring such bad luck on this auspicious day? I'm not lying. My husband never came home. Worried he'd been drinking, I went to look. Liu Xiaoxi saw him in Huihua Alley, so I went there. I never expected that he would actually be keeping a mistress in a private residence in that alley, and that shameless woman is already 3 months pregnant. Mother, you must stand up for me. Right after that, Gucci, clothes in disarray, rushed in from outside, furious and pointing at Lin Chushui as he cursed her.
Why are you making a scene here? Mother, don't listen to her. What unknown woman? She's from a good family.
Lin Chuxu jumped up, pointed at her nose and started cursing loudly. Utter nonsense. What kind of proper young lady would become someone's mistress, secretly have an affair with another woman's husband, and even get pregnant in secret? In my eyes, she's nothing but a whore who's been with countless men. A woman like this, who disgraces the family's reputation, should be beaten to death with sticks according to the Gu family rules. Gu Zi, stung by her words, sprang up like an enraged bull and shot back in retort.
How dare you? How dare you preach about virtue? Are you any better? You're far more shameless than her. Haven't you shamed yourself enough in the capital? If anyone deserves to be beaten to death, it's you. At least Qing Qing's unmarried and never slept around at a funeral.
In the main hall, they traded vile insults before their elders. It was unbearable. Gu Ting paled, and suddenly...
Enough. Gucci, what is this?
Gu Zi shuddered in fear, yet kept her head high.
She told the madam, Mother, Qing Qing is Lord Su's daughter. Please. She left the Sus. I'm divorcing Lin Chuxu to marry Qing Qing before the morning ends.
After hearing these utterly absurd words, the old madam clutched her chest, nearly unable to catch her breath, her vision going black. The nanny hurried to help her breathe easier. You wretch, you unfilial child! The old madam pointed at Gu Qi, her voice trembling. You have a proper life, yet you insist on chasing after these rotten affairs. If you stubbornly insist on marrying that woman of unknown origin, then take Lin Chuxue and get out of the Marquis' residence at once. From now on, you are no longer part of the Dingyuan Marquis household. Even if you marry 100 women, I won't care. Seeing how heartless his mother was, Gu Qi also stiffened his neck and stood up, speaking with determination.
Fine, I'm leaving. Qing Qing and I are in love. I'm tired of my brother's disdain and Lin Wanyu's attitude. I'm done and moving out now. She left without looking back.
Ignoring Lin Chuxu on the ground, she turned and left. Behind her, Lin Chuxu was sobbing and pounding the floor, but she never looked back. Later, my dowry maid investigated, and I learned the truth. It turned out that during Gu Qi's past studies in Jiangnan, at a lantern festival, he fell for Su Qingqing, Lord Su's illegitimate daughter. Pure and charmingly sweet, she followed her father to the capital. Drawn to Gu Qi's looks and status, she ignored his scandal with Lin Chuxue. After losing his title, Gu Qi sought Lord Su's influence for a comeback. The two quickly became entangled in a secret affair. They hoped that if she became pregnant, Lord Su would have to accept it for the family's reputation. He'd have to accept the marriage and support him, but Lord Su's wife, Madame Su, was fierce and harsh toward concubine's children. Learning of the affair, she refused to compromise, beat Su Qingqing, and threw her out, claiming she died of illness to sever ties. Gu Qi was stunned. When he brought her to his rented house, he realized the Su family had truly disowned her. His hope of relying on his wife's family vanished into thin air, leaving his world in collapse. He was stuck with two outcasts, Lin Chuxue and Su Qingqing, who were nothing but burdens. Neither woman was easy to deal with. Lin Chuxue, pregnant with the eldest son, acted like a head wife while Su Qingqing sided with her. In their cramped house, the two fought constantly, vying for favor and money, even coming to blows. Their endless squabbles made home a living hell, driving a frustrated Gu Zi to seek solace in the pleasure houses of Pinkang Lane. The meager inheritance he received was quickly squandered. At home, his wife and concubine used their last private savings to survive, enduring endless hardship. 8 months flew by, and when Lin Chuxu was due to give birth, the cold wind was biting. As she writhed in pain, the servants found there wasn't even a coin left for a doctor. Opening her hidden camphor wood chests, they discovered Gu Qi had secretly pawned everything. The storeroom held only dozens of empty boxes. The rare furs and gold hairpieces once prepared for a noble's wife were all gone. Everything was sold off, squandered on brothel tips. The courtyard maids had to beg for help at the Marquis' back gate. Though the old madam hated Lin Chukshu, she wouldn't let the Gu heir die unborn and sent her best midwife. Upon arrival, the midwife's expression shifted. During pregnancy, Lin's anxiety and vying for Guqi's love caused emotional distress. Ignored by Guqi, she overate in frustration, making the fetus dangerously large. The baby was also in the wrong position. She was in pain all day and night, her screams echoing down the street, her voice hoarse. Bloody water was changed repeatedly, but the child was stuck in her pelvis. The maid searched the city for Guqi, finally finding her drunk in a brothel. The maid knelt down.
She begged, "Second master, come back, madam is dying in labor."
He shoved the maid, drunk, grabbed Yao Jieya, and cursed,
saying, "Get lost, every woman does it. Is Lin Chukshui that fragile? If she can't, let her die." Finally,
on a pitch-black night, after enduring endless pain and despair, Lin Chukshui suffered massive bleeding and died in childbirth with a piercing tragic scream. She and the much-anticipated baby boy in her womb both died on that dilapidated wooden bed, 2 lives lost in one night. It was said that when she died, her eyes were wide open, staring fixedly at the doorway, filled with regret and unwillingness. When Guqi staggered back to the small courtyard, still hung over the next morning, all he saw in the main room were 2 corpses covered by a straw mat. Hearing of Lin Chukshu's death, she felt no sorrow or tears, only relief that her ears were finally at peace, rid of a burden. But witnessing this chilled Su Qingqing to the core. Seeing the unrecognizable corpse, she saw her own future in Guqi's revealed heartlessness. While he reported the death, Su Qingqing took her newborn and a loyal servant, fleeing to the Su family gates where she knelt and refused to rise. Her tearful pleas for forgiveness were ignored. After the funeral, Guqi returned to find the courtyard deserted. Su Qingqing had vanished with her belongings, leaving only the bleak autumn wind. Softened by her repentance, Lord Su finally took her home. Unable to swallow his anger, he petitioned the court against Guqi the next day. He ignored his daughter's elopement, instead accusing Guqi of abducting a lady and corrupting household morals. The emperor, already weary of Guqi, was furious and ordered her immediate imprisonment. Officials dragged her to a dark cell. Every day she clung to the bars, hoping Su Qingqing would remember their bond and plead for her release, but she found only darkness and the sound of rats. When the news reached the Dingyuan Marquis Manor, I was sitting in the warm pavilion, embroidering. Upon hearing about Lin Chukshu's tragic death in childbirth, my hand paused, and the needle pricked my fingertip, drawing a bead of blood. Suddenly, I thought of my previous life. Back then, it was also a difficult labor, a fate worse than death. Guqi and Lin Chukshui, in order to swap the dragon for the phoenix, stood coldly outside the screen, listening to my agonized screams, watching me bleed to death. Heaven's justice always comes full circle. Who can escape retribution? The pain they inflicted on me in my past life has now, in this life, been returned to them in full. I took a deep breath and put my bloodied finger in my mouth. I gently stroked my slightly rounded belly. Gu Ting happened to walk in from outside. Seeing me lost in thought, she hurried over with concern and took my hand.
What's wrong with your hand? Are you okay? The doctor said you're pregnant and must stay calm. Whatever happens to the second branch is their own fault, not yours.
Recently I felt dizzy because of Chen Qi. Gu Ting anxiously summoned an imperial physician, and it turned out I was 2 months pregnant. As for us, when did we consummate? I blamed the wedding night. He was too bewitching and tipsy on Hequan wine. I gave myself to him. Looking at the man who treasures me, I held Gu Ting's hand and whispered, "My lord, through any storm, will you always protect me and our child?" Gu Ting squeezed my hand and pulled me into his embrace. He pressed a deep kiss to my forehead, the smile at the corner of his lips radiating a reassuring strength.
Of course, you are my wife, and she is our daughter. I, Gu Ting, will protect you both with my life. Do you still doubt me?
After 10 months, my delivery day arrived. Unlike Lin Chukshui, I didn't suffer. Gu Ting prepared the best medical team and stayed by my side, ignoring everyone who tried to stop him. He held my hand tightly, eyes red with worry, looking even more nervous than I was.
Wan Yue, we're both here.
Her voice trembled slightly as she kept repeating these words in my ear.
After the baby is born, I'll share a long-held secret.
A secret? In agonizing pain, I didn't care about her secrets. She was in the way, so I shoved her out. Get out, stop getting in the way. Pushed into the outer room, she paced like a trapped animal outside the delivery room. The next morning, as dawn broke, a loud cry echoed through the Marquis's manor. "Congratulations, it's a boy," the midwife beamed. That sound finally cleared the gloom from my heart. Gu Ting rushed in, ignoring the child to kneel by my bed. He tenderly brushed the hair from my forehead, his face full of love and concern.
You suffered just to save me.
He gently took the infant from the nurse. The ruthless Grand General, merciless on the battlefield, now gazed at the baby, who looked just like him, softly. His gaze was incredibly gentle as he lightly touched the baby's cheek. The old madam hurried in, weeping with joy at the sight of her healthy great-grandson. She immediately named him Gu Nianan, signifying loyalty, courage, and lasting peace. This name honored the Marquis of Dingyuan's service, while wishing the child a smooth, worry-free life. During my confinement, Gu Ting avoided unnecessary social and court duties. After military affairs, she headed straight to the inner quarters. Though her general's hands were calloused, she was astonishingly thoughtful with us. She oversaw my diet and handled the baby's night cries herself, learning from Momo to change diapers and burp him. Her movements were clumsy, but earnest. Once I woke at night and saw her by the bed in the moonlight. She held a palm leaf fan, fanning me and Nyanan in her cradle, her eyes full of deep tenderness that made my heart tremble. Memories of my past betrayal and lonely death faded under her care. When my confinement ended, Guting and I sunbathed under the grape arbor while Nyanan slept nearby. Looking at her, I remembered her words from the day I gave birth and had to ask her about it. Marquise, back then outside the delivery room, you said you had a secret to tell me. What was it? The smile on Guting's face faded slightly. She stood up, walked over to sit beside me, took my hand, and her expression became especially solemn, even tinged with a gentle melancholy as if she had survived a great ordeal. She took a deep breath, as if summoning immense resolve. Actually, I too have been reborn. My heart jolted violently. My mind seemed to stop working and I stared at her in disbelief. You were reborn as well? Guting gave a bitter smile and nodded, her gaze drifting into the distance, as if she had fallen into the depths of her most painful memories.
After dying in battle, my soul drifted above the Dingyuan Marquis Manor. As a ghost, I saw Lin Chushui fake her death and Guti's malice. I also saw how they lured you into the manor, and your desperate death during childbirth in that cold room.
Guting's voice choked on muffled sobs.
Blame. I saw the truth clearly, but powerless. I couldn't reach you. I loathed my blindness and my cruel brother. Your death left me resentful. Miraculously, I woke up back at the borderlands, right during the ambush and my fall. Then, he held me.
Gripped my hand with astonishing strength.
I knew if I died, you would repeat your tragic fate, so I gritted my teeth, surviving on roots and foul water at the cliff's bottom to stay alive. I rushed back to the capital day and night to protect you. It turns out.
In this moment, my doubts vanished. I finally understood why he stood up for me, how he foresaw the scandal, and why he looked at me with such love and pity on our wedding night. Before, one of us died a scapegoat and the other was a wandering soul. Now fate has given us a second chance to rewrite our story. My eyes grew red. I clung to him, my tears soaking his clothes. My lord, thank you for saving me and being my light in my darkest hour. Guting held me close, whispering softly, silly girl, I should be thanking you.
If it weren't for you in the Grand Hall, when you vowed to marry me, I would have been nothing more than a joke even if I returned alive. Wan Yue, I swear to use my life to protect you and Nyanan, to ensure your peace and safety. I will never let anyone hurt you, not even a little.